Thank you for the introduction as well, Jay. So my name is Barsha Karki. I work for Zscaler, and today I will talk to you about career paths and leadership opportunities in cybersecurity. A quick agenda. I'll do a quick intro on who I am, so you get to know a little bit about me and my journey. The company that I work for, Zscaler, we are leaders in zero trust architecture. So I'll share a little bit about what zero trust is and how do we help organizations get onto their zero trust architecture journey with Zscaler. And I'll, as promised, I will go through career pathways. I'll kind of trying to share what opportunities there are, and probably I'm hoping that you can draw some of those conclusions as I talk about my own career journey as well, and then I'll share something about what leadership journey could look like in cyber as well. Uh, I know this is a webinar, and I'll take questions as we go if you have questions, or we can leave it in the end. Jay, I'll let you manage that. Feel free to stop me if there are questions that you think I can answer on right then. Here's my LinkedIn. If anybody wants to connect with me over LinkedIn, this is me. So a quick intro. My education and career journey so far. I'm, from Nepal, of course, and Jay's, has made it his mission to connect various people in Nepal and outside of Nepal, doing wonderful things in their technology career journeys and bringing that knowledge and creating that community. So I'm very grateful to be part of that community. I was born and brought up in Lalitpur. I did my schooling in Lalitpur, kindergarten to year 10. I was in Mount Valley School. I did my intermediate of science. I know it doesn't exist anymore, so I'm kind of showing my age here a little bit. But before year 10, year 11, 12, after year 10, we did intermediate science. So I was in St. Xavier's College. I completed my Bachelor's of Engineering in Electronics and Telecommunications from Pulchok campus. I was a batch of 2005. And so in 2006, I decided to come to Australia to pursue higher studies. So I did Master of Engineering Studies in Telecommunications and also completed a degree in Master of Engineering Management. So that has been my, education journey so far, and of course it never stops just with university degrees, right? You learn on the job every day, and then you take on other courses, certifications, whatever it may be that's relevant at that point in time, right? So that kind of it has been a continued journey. In terms of my career, once I finished my postgraduate studies in Sydney from University of Technology Sydney, UTS, I got into a graduate role at Alcatel-Lucent as a project engineer, in networking, right? Routing protocols, switching, all of that good stuff, creating network architectures, BGP, all of that. So I was there for about 3 years. Alcatel-Lucent doesn't exist anymore. It's part of Nokia. So, I still have some of my ex-colleagues who are still there. It's a small industry. So, I'm a network engineer at heart. I did electronics engineering, telecommunications, and had three and a half years almost of like hands-on technical networking skills. Because Alcatel was reducing at the time, and now it doesn't exist, my role was made redundant. So I didn't have a job. They didn't have a role for me. So at that time, I actually came across a role called pre-sales engineer, which is not a project engineer when when an organization has won the project and you work on it as a project engineer. Pre-sales engineer is actually you work with the sales team and you're at the front foot. You're actually at the front line with the customers, talking to them, understanding what environments they have. Are they using something else to solve a specific pain or problem, and if they are, what else are they looking? So you're putting a solution together and selling it to them. So my role was a technical salesperson, where you could do a demo of the product. You'd have to know a lot about the product because you're trying to sell it to customers, right? So that is where my pre-sales experience began in 2013. I was at a global organization called Equinix. They're a global data center provider, the top one in the world at the moment. I was there for almost 3 years. After that, I was looking for sort of a challenge. I knew everything in my job, and then at that point I was hearing a lot more about security. Being a network engineer, of course I knew about firewall rules and ACLs and all the security policies we would put on a firewall, but I hadn't really worked for a firewall vendor. So I actually ventured into security without any security experience, so I kind of had to sell myself again, because I was interested in the topic, and that career. I spent a year at Checkpoint, and then I got an opportunity to work at Akamai Technologies. So if anybody knows the 7 layers of OSI stack, I was on layer 3, and then I got to move up to layer 7. So I did electronics because I did not actually like coding. I couldn't see myself behind a computer screen coding all day. I did coding, I did all right in coding in uni, but that is not something that I'm passionate about. So move up from layer 3 to layer 7 was a very steep learning path, right? But it was a fun learning path. So I was in Akamai, CDN technology, content delivery network, plus web application firewall. So firewall and security on an application layer, right? And then a bit of a detour. And I was presented with an opportunity to work at NetApp, and NetApp are data management, storage sort of vendor. I'd never worked with storage, so when somebody reached out to me for an opportunity, I actually was pretty surprised, because they wanted to work with me for the knowledge that I brought with my experience as a network engineer, as somebody who worked in a data center, who knows about cloud, how connectivity works, and how security works across different layers. So I could bring security kind of conversations, because if you think about data, and I'm sure everybody uses data, but also probably if you're in your work, working organization, there's a lot of good data that needs to be saved, but then if something happens to your primary set of data, how do you make sure that you have a backup? And that's where storage really comes into play. So even if somebody's got a ransomware attack and they lose that primary set of data, how do you retrieve that? And that is where storage and that cloud play really came into play. And I really love that job as well. Like I went in going, I don't know much about storage, and I spent 3 years there, which was a fun learning experience from very awesome and intelligent people around me. I also stepped in as a team lead in the last year of my role, because that is something that I wanted to do. I've been mentoring the university that I went to, University of Technology Sydney. They have women in engineering and IT mentoring programs. I've been mentoring in that program for the last 10 years. This is my 10th year, and I think that growing up in Nepal, and being a minority, being a female and a minority, I haven't seen very many female engineers. I think it's changing now, and I can see, I think we've got someone in the audience as well. It's really great to see more women representation. It's so I've been mentoring that, and that is the passion. The passion sort of drove me to mentoring the female in IT and engineering, and that following my passion sort of led me to think this could be a career that I would really enjoy. And so I started, having those conversations with people around me, and expressing my interest in being a manager and a leader, and lead a team of, engineers. And so in the last 1.5 years, February last year, I actually did get an opportunity to apply for a team, a team manager role. So today I work as a pre-sales engineering manager across Asia Pacific, Japan, in Zscaler. So I've got my team, I've got 2 engineers in Sydney, 2 in Japan, 2 in Singapore, and 1 in India. So very fortunate to be where I am today and to be able to share this journey with you, right? So if you've got any questions, please feel free to send them through. And Jay, please interrupt me if there's anything that you need to ask as well. So that's my career journey. As I mentioned, because I work with Zscaler, I thought I'll take you through a little bit of what Zero Trust is and how Zscaler does it. Um, I wouldn't be surprised that if everybody on the call and the audience knows Zero Trust or have heard about it or actually are implementing it in some way, in their work, in their organization. But a little bit of a history, right? Most of the information that I have is just Wikipedia, but also from my experience in Akamai and Zscaler now, there's some events that I know of around how Zero Trust sort of started. So I will share that. I hope you find it a bit interesting. So in the traditional networking, given I am a network engineer at heart, if you remember before COVID, a lot of people worked from home, right? Sorry, worked in the office. Like there was not a lot of work from home, and so when you take your laptop, or a lot of the organization, you wouldn't even take your workstation home; it would just be there. Or once people started traveling a bit, they'd take the laptop home. But certain applications, you'd have to come back into the office and connect to the LAN, right? And you'd have that. And during COVID, we saw a lot of people. Well, the whole sort of world stopped, and everybody had to just be where they are. And so that trust, your controlled environment now moved from your building or your data center to homes, to airports, to cafes, to beaches, right? So everybody's working from everywhere. So what is Zero Trust is move away from trust but verify. So connect your laptop into a LAN environment, you punch in your username and password, and you now connect it to the network. You've got access to shared drives, right? That was trust but verify. Whereas now, with everybody being everywhere, applications being everywhere, end users being everywhere, it's never trust and always verify. It's even if you're in a controlled facility that an organization has, you should not be able to connect to something and you've got access to network, because that is risk, right? So Zero Trust is all about that journey from trust but verify to never trust, always verify. A bit of history. Stephen Paul Marsh termed the word Zero Trust in his thesis in 1994. In between mid 2009 and December 2009, there was an operation. There was a cybersecurity operation called Operation Aurora, and a series of cyber attacks were directed at very large, more than dozens of large organizations, and those organizations included Akamai, Google, for example, right? In response to Operation Aurora, Google actually implemented a zero trust architecture, or they created a framework called Beyond Corp. And that's the very early days of zero trust architecture. I might add that Zscaler was built, based on the zero trust architecture in 2007, right? So we've been around for a lot longer than a decade, and we've been in the business as well. So since all of those activities and the zero trust architecture sort of framework creation, John Kinderberger Forrester Research actually created a zero trust model, and that is something that the industry has seen as the framework for what we see as zero trust architecture and principles right now, right? And so in the last decade, especially since COVID, we've seen a lot more adoption, right, in of the zero trust architecture. And it's really because people are not just going into the office, they're everywhere, and applications or the applications that the users need to connect to are everywhere as well. Like it could be in your office, it could be in your data center, it could be in your remote location, it could be in one of the public clouds, or you could have your own private cloud as well, right? Or SaaS applications, not just IaaS and PaaS, but SaaS applications, Office 365, for example, Google Drive, Shared Drive, right? I believe there is there are a few, you know, DevOps sort of interested people in here as well. So I thought I'll reference this CrowdStrike Zero Trust Security link here. You know, I think just a bit more information if you wanted to delve a little bit deeper. Obviously, you know, Zscaler, you can go onto our website and find a bit more. But I thought specific to DevOps, and you know, CrowdStrike is a partner of ours as well. So I thought I'll share that with you here. Yeah, so just with that little bit of background of what Zero Trust is, I wanted to touch, you know, touch a little bit on how do we help our customers and large organizations across the world in their Zero Trust, you know, to adopt the Zero Trust architecture. Right. So who is Zscaler? Our mission is to secure, simplify, and transform businesses. And that's, you know, those are businesses who are on their digital transformation and security transformation and zero trust architectural sort of transformation journey. Right. It is all about data protection, your cyber threat protection. You know, cybersecurity is a layered approach. There's no silver bullet, right? So as your assets across multiple environments grow, as your users grow, as your applications grow, I think there's layers of security that you need to add. And what we do is we connect user to an application like a switchboard, right? Like without access to your, you know, attack surfaces, which are you know, which could be your IP addresses out in the internet, right? So we've helped quite large organizations in their business transformation. We're a NASDAQ 100 listed company. You know, Net Promoter Score is, you know, average in the industry is about 35. Ours is 70 plus. And this really, the idea of Net Promoter Score is what our customers say about us, right? So that is, and that ties back to, you know, like our history in the industry, you know, 12 plus years of excellence plus, you know, we've been in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for 12 plus years as well. Right. Here's some of the names and how we've helped them in their journeys. I just wanted to bring this up just to show you, right? I've talked about where the users are. You know, you could be at home, you could be in the office, you could be in a remote location, which is your home or a cafe or wherever, and you've got your headquarter branch offices as well. And now the applications that all of these users are accessing could be in your data center, in your private data center, or public cloud. Now, you know, we see a lot of organizations that we work with, maybe DevOps, a lot of them could be using AWS, right? Office 365 or Google Suite for some, a lot of compute in the Azure, maybe, right? And a lot of big data analysis sort of workloads running in Google Cloud. So all of that. So, you know, if you're a developer, you could be needing access to one of these environments. If you're normal, you know, a person like me who comes in at 9 o'clock, you know, I'm checking my Google email, Gmail for work, or, you know, your Office 365, Slack, Salesforce, all of these SaaS applications. And then you've got these other applications, right? Like Facebook, YouTube, Salesforce, all of the other internet sort of bound traffic. So, you know, and then, you know, as the premises increase, the older architecture of castle and moat, you know, you've got the castle and you've got a perimeter sort of security, that's not gonna hold anymore, right? You've got to add layer of security to each of that, because wherever the user is, what they're communicating could be a pathway to loss of data, right? So we simplify that in Zscaler. Everything kind of comes through our Zscaler Zero Trust Cloud, right? And then all the requests comes through us. Then we stitch the connection to the whether it's internet bound or whether it's a SaaS bound or whether it's your data center or public cloud bound, right? I guess just looking at why would we need to move away from that traditional network centric architecture, right? Here's what we saw in the previous slide as well. All of these users, factories, bench, office A, office B, data centers, and all your applications sitting in the cloud. That castle and moat, the securing your infrastructure now has to extend to all of these areas, right? And that is a challenge. That is a challenge because how do you protect everything going to the internet, or how do you protect your data that's sitting in public cloud or even SaaS like Office 365? It's an app, right? How do you add levels of security and inspection into that kind of data as well? That's where what Zscaler does is look at all of that. We have capabilities around access to internet firewall, secure web gateway, access to applications, and then data protection to all the data in movement, in transit or at rest as well. So the challenges of security, legacy security and networks are very profound, right? And the whole idea of why people would exploit is to really steal the data, right? Data is the currency of today's world. So with the traditional architecture, you've got your data center, you've got your branches, and now you've extended VPN to connect to those branches. And then you go to the cloud and you've actually extended to that, connectivity with IP to your public cloud service providers environments as well. So what happens is, as soon as you extend your network, not just connectivity, but VPN and into the cloud, all of these IP addresses that are publicly available are attack surfaces. If anybody can see it, they can attack it, right? And there's a whole bunch of businesses that run on targeting organizations, like they do scans, but they have targeted attacks so they can find you. They find the attack surfaces, your IP addresses that are published in the internet. Then they compromise you. So they would try, there's so many different types of attacks to infect your users, devices, workloads. And then once they've got access into your network by whatever medium, then they move east-west, right? They move laterally, because once you've got access to the network, then you can see the whole network, you can move. And then the final act is to steal your data, right? That is why the whole exercise exists. And that data, if you think about any organization, you think about universities, you think about hospitals, research data, PII, personal information, banking details, all of that data, that is what's important to the attackers, right? That is what makes them money when they sell it in the darknet, right? So I guess just touching on that, if the traditional firewall VPN bridges extend the network, and so once you're within the network, the attackers can move anywhere and access your crown jewel. Whereas Zscaler, even if you've got multiple applications within an AWS environment, example, and a user would only connect to one app in that environment, and that's it. And that would be verified every time the user tries to access that app, right? Just because they've got access to that app once doesn't mean they're forever allowed. For that session, we will verify the identity and then make the decision to whether allow them or not. How do we do it? We've got 150 exchanges around the world. We've got we see 300 billion plus requests day in, day out, which means, you know, the insights and we run it on, you know, AI ML sort of platform as well. So the insights that we get, it helps us protect a lot of our customers, right? And, you know, we do what we do. You know, we integrate with identity providers. We look at a user request coming in. We apply SSL inspection because we need to look at the payload, open the request, and see if it's malicious or not. And then, if the user is permitted for that particular application with the right context, we then stitch that connection. That is what we do, and we actually do what we do really well with integration with a lot of, you know, best of breed platforms. And I'm sure a lot of these names are familiar to you, right? Like we work with identity management like Okta, Microsoft AD. You know, we work really closely with CrowdStrike, Microsoft SentinelOne, and we actually share intel as well, because then we you know, we complement that endpoint security with the rest of the architecture security. Right, we connect all users, devices, offices, people, businesses. You know, you can have your SIEM solution integrated, and then we've also got, you know, we also work with SD-WAN sort of providers. We also offer that service as well, and then we work with, you know, obviously we allow connection to any of the applications, right? Most of the popular names are here, but if there's something that's not here, it would be, you know, I think it would be very surprising if you don't work with that as well. So that is what I wanted to take us through for just a quick overview on what Zero Trust is, and what, you know, how we do Zero Trust with Zscaler. Please send me your questions, you know, or hold them until the end of the session. I'm going to switch gears a little bit now. Career, you know, I did promise to talk about career paths in cyber. And I wanted to reflect on my own path, right? I'm a network engineer. I really got into networking because I got an opportunity to do CCNA when I was in my 4th year uni in Nepal, Pocha campus. And only then I realized I actually really like networking. Until then, you know, we didn't have a subject on networking at that time. I was lucky that I got a scholarship to do CCNA, and I was like, this is it. This is something that I'm passionate about. All right, and so I learned that, but just you know, the events that happened in my career, I went from that to data center, and then, you know, I ran into somebody who was trying to talk to me about you know, security and DDoS protection and all of that, and I was like, "What? That sounds interesting." And so I actually actively went and looked for opportunity in security, not knowing anything about security or very basic minimum, right? So I think, and today I manage a team, you know, like a team of pre-sales engineers in cybersecurity. So it's been an interesting journey. When I did my uni, you know, I actually didn't know what sort of role I would find or I would enjoy. And then there was the course, and then, you know, one thing led to another. So I think career paths are, I would invite everyone to kind of think it's your path, right? You start where you are, and the opportunities are boundless. I did a quick, you know, search, and there's quite a lot of opportunities in cybersecurity, right? I think there's a lot of entry-level security jobs. I know, you know, pen testing, coding. There's like everything's backed by coding. If you can do good coding, you can actually be part of you know, awesome application and DevSecOps sort of teams as well. Incident responder, you know, I think and also just the SIEM operators like Splunk administrator, right? There's so many technologies. If you start from user to an application, right? You could be in mobile app development. You could be in, you know, a certain security vendor sort of, you know, offering. You could work for system integrators and put together solutions. You could be in that security SIEM analysis sort of roles. You could be an auditor. You know, there's massive opportunities in the field of risk and compliance as well, right? And obviously there's you know, architectures and architects, there's post sales where you actually deploy, firewalls or configurations and things like that. And then there's pre-sales where you can be, what I used to be, pre-sales, a technical consultant to the customers, or you can go one up and actually have, be a solutions architect, and talk to CXOs and be that technical advisor, trusted advisor, as well. And obviously there's very senior roles, like, you could be a CISO, information security officer. There's so many roles that are happening, starting. I think there's a lot more roles and opportunities within cybersecurity than there are people studying it right now, right? And so I know a lot of organizations now are offering internships and grad roles to people who are interested in cyber, who might not even have a technical background, but they're interested because, there are courses that you can do that can get you quickly up to speed. So I wanted to really touch on that and, just share my career journey as well, because I didn't start as a cybersecurity person, but one thing has led to another, and it's mostly driven by me being curious and me wanting to know more about cybersecurity that has, led me here. And what's helped is creating mentors and, reaching out to reaching out to my networks along the way as well. All right, I'll just pause here for a bit. I think there's some chat questions. How going to university? Okay. What are the current and emerging trends in cybersecurity that are shaping the demand for leaders and influencing the leadership roles within organization? Yeah, I think I know Jay sent me one question around, like the how do I start getting into incorporating security when I'm learning DevOps. I think learning DevOps is a fantastic place to start thinking about security, right? I would actually recommend going through some of the cloud, like basic cloud certifications, either AWS, Azure, or just even look through the material, right? They actually cover a lot of all of the environments, and security is a small part of them. But if you haven't started looking at security, I think that would be a great place to start. And DevOps, I know there was Dev and Ops, and we, made it DevOps, and now it's like DevSecOps, right? It's security has to be part of DevOps. It shouldn't be an afterthought. So I think finding and working with you with the other stakeholders in your organization, like networking people, security people, application people. I think everybody needs to work together. So I would recommend start having those conversations, right? Start having those conversations. Sorry, so I had to respond to that question first. Looking at the second question, what are the current and emerging trends in cybersecurity that are shaping the demand for leaders and influencing the leadership roles within organization? I think it's, and maybe whoever asked this question, I'm happy for you to unmute and add. But I'll have a go at this, and if I'm not capturing it correctly, please feel free to add a bit more, right? So I'm going in the right direction. I think if if an organization, let's say, giving an example, let's say an e-commerce organization, what their journey, where they are at in their cybersecurity journey could be very different to, for example, a bank, right? So I think if you are working for an organization, it's I think the first thing is to look at where in the journey, whether it's digital journey or security, where in the journey are you right now? And what is the next priority straight away, right? Because as I said, security is a layered approach, and it's layers of security, right? If you're starting out in public cloud, which a lot of startups do, what sort of data are you collecting? What are you working with? Who are you integrating with? How are you processing your payments? I think, looking at where your business is at and what your priorities are. What is the most important thing you will lose, and how do you protect that, and what solutions that you need to protect that, I think would be the first step if you're working in an organization. And trying to put a strategy together, help implement that solution is probably what's gonna bring you the visibility as a leader. Even if you are in an entry-level role or a mid-level role, I think having those conversations, being curious and asking, and if you know something else, whether from your own experience or from what you know, I think being that sound would probably put you in a good spot. I hope that answers the question. If not, please feel free to um, add a bit more and ask me to clarify. So um, So the next, I kind of talked about the careers in cybersecurity. I wanted to touch a bit on leadership. With leadership, it's leadership journeys, leadership opportunities. What is leadership in cyber? I think leadership is leadership. Everybody thinks of it differently. Is leadership? Leadership is. I don't think you need to be a manager, right? To be a leader, you can be. I think everybody is a leader in their own right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Um, you know, excuse me. The leadership philosophy that I follow is servant leadership, right? And I talked about my own passion about helping other people, especially coming from Nepal and not seeing very many females. I made it my cause to help develop young women to choose science and maths, and once they're doing a degree, showing them what's possible once they finish uni. And I think that is what drives me. And in that 10 years of mentoring, I realized that I actually get complete fulfillment, like huge amount of fulfillment when I see I make a little bit of difference in somebody's career, and in choices they make and in the progress they make. So my leadership style is servant leadership style, right? Like I exist to serve my team. I guess if anybody were considering leadership opportunities in cybersecurity, my I invite you to think about what your leadership philosophy is, right? And even if you don't know right now, think about it. Think about what drives you. If being a leader excites you, what is it about that excites you? And I think that is probably be your your navigation to your ongoing journey. Um, so back even referring to the earlier question as well, how can you become a leader in your organization? I think, like I said, everybody is a leader in their own right, in their own current role. You don't need the title of a manager to become leader, right? And how you become a leader in your role is learn your craft, your day to day. What is it that you're doing? Learn it and work at it. Perfection doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, but just give it all you got every day. And as you progress, you start standing out because you are learning your craft, you're working at it, and people will see, right? I think I watched a short video clip from Barack Obama, and somebody said, "Oh, how do you reach to the top?" And he said, you know get the person who gets shit done, right? I think once you're in a role, and people come to you knowing that you do the job that you say you will do, that is when you build your credibility, and then that grows, right? And that kind of ties to that leadership philosophy, but also what drives you. What is it that what is it that you like about your role, or if you're trying to be a leader, or a manager, or a team lead, or a solution architect, or a CISO, why is that important to you? Inquire into your why, because I think even if it's vague right now, I think it's worthwhile inquiring into that, because that kind of becomes your guiding light. And it's like I said, success and whatever your dream might not happen overnight, right? So have a vision and um, start where you are. you've got nothing to lose. Whatever you've earned so far, whatever you've learned so far, all the knowledge, all the experiences, good and bad, I think they're very powerful, and they make you who you are, and they actually set you for a stronger future, right? So start where you are, and if today you decided, I actually want to pivot my career, I think I'm interested in something else, start building your assets so you get there, right? Um, and one of the things that I see as you know, in the industry, in IT, because that's most of the industry that I know, a lot of people shy away from asking for help. I think there's a big stigma around, oh, we all smart people and we shouldn't be, if we ask a question, we might look stupid, and if I ask for help, I might look like I don't know anything. I think that is, especially starting out, or especially, even when or have a top job at a new company, or or you've got friends. I think when you need help, I think it takes a much bigger person to kind of say, here's where I'm stuck at, and this is where I need help, right? um One of the, I read this book, The Go Giver. One of my mentors recommended me this book very recently. I think everything that I've talked about in my leadership journey and my philosophy and how I've gotten here, this book actually has summarized it really, really well, right? It talks about the five laws of stratospheric success, and the last one here is, you do all of that, but the last one is the law of receptivity. The key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving, right? So, you follow your heart, you help people, servant leadership and all of that. But when somebody tries to help you, when opportunities come your way, I think, you practice being a go giver, but also stay very open to receiving as well, right? I think that's where I'm gonna leave you with. It's when Jay invited me to this webinar, I was a bit scared, right? But I thought I'll just come in here and share. I felt really grateful. I just want to leave you with this. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important why, whether I'm afraid. And I think this ties back to, finding your why. And if you follow a vision, irrespective of how scary it can be at times, I think that will drive you forward. And that is all I had to share today. Thank you.